it is really nice to have things in physical form. You're kind of using them as like a thermostat. Make a mock cover. This is so much fun. It is going to be easier for you to focus, or at least I find that's true for me. So what is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. So this is probably the most impromptu video I've maybe ever made on my channel. I just had the idea for this literally like 10 minutes ago. As you can tell from the title, I want to kind of give you guys some inspiration if you are somebody who, whether or not you've actually written a novel, but particularly I'm probably talking more to people who haven't finished a novel, but you have an idea for one and you're really inspired, but you don't really know like what to do or where to go with it. I want to just kind of sit down and give you some ideas and some inspiration and motivation to actually sit down and get that writing done. Or if you are like me and you've written a few, but sometimes you just need a little bit of a push to continue on when you feel like you're stuck, like you hit like a roadblock. Now that that knot is out of my hair, we can get started. The first thing that I was going to kind of suggest to you guys is to talk it out. So grab your cell phone, most people have one of these, and go to like the voice memo app on your phone. If you don't have it, download it. There's a whole bunch of them that are free, and just talk out the idea. And I literally just did this. I'll show you. I have a recording. I just literally walked around my apartment for the last 48 minutes and just started word vomiting. I will put this on the screen so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. And you can even pretend like you're on the phone with somebody. I've actually done this before when I was at university. I was like walking back from class to my dorms. If you are in public and you don't want to seem like a crazy person, just do this and nobody's gonna be the wiser. Like literally nobody's gonna know that you're not talking to somebody. So what I find is that when you're writing, I know for me, you write so much slower than what your brain is working. And honestly, even typing, even though I can type so much faster, I feel like a lot of times I'm typing and I can't really keep up with my thoughts. What I find a lot of times when I'm writing or typing is I feel like a pressure to finish the thought. All of a sudden it's like I'm stuck within like the construct of whatever I'm typing. When you're just talking out loud, talking is just so, like I said, it's word vomiting. Like you can just get out literally anything and everything. It's going to be a nightmare later to go back and listen to, but you can then go back into a Word document or into your journal and string together all of your very scattered thoughts, or at least my thoughts are usually very scattered when I'm just word vomiting. But I think it ends up being more productive in the long run because I'm just getting the ideas out. I'm not being super picky about like spelling things wrong. Like I'm literally just talking. And so I find that it's a lot more freeing. So if you're like me and you're a perfectionist, I feel like you're less committed because you're just talking. You can always delete it later if you want to. So if you're like me and you feel like you have a little bit of a perfectionist kind of streak, or you just need to feel a little bit less encumbered by what you're writing, then don't write it, just say it. I've watched a couple of author vlogs on YouTube of current authors who actually do this. This is part of their creative process. They will just walk around their apartment. I remember meeting a poet, Brian Turner, who I met at the writing workshop that I went to back in October, and he said that he paces in front of his front window, in front of his house in the living room, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But that's part of his process. Like when he's creating a poem, he's just kind of talking through the words in his brain, pacing back and forth in front of his window. So, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, find out what works for you. I feel like this is silly to even say, but obviously, if you don't have like a notebook or a journal to write your thoughts down in, you definitely need to go get one. I just get lines. I have heard some people say that is even too restrictive, and so they will actually buy sketchbooks instead of a notebook. So you feel like you have the freedom to like do a little doodle or sketch if you want to. So that's really helpful. So possibly a sketchbook, depending on how your brain works, depending on the story. The next thing, and I've mentioned these before in my writing vlogs, I'll try to link some of my writing vlogs in the cards and in the description box, is this thing called The Imaginary World of by Carrie Smith. She is the person behind the Wreck This journals. These are so insanely helpful. It is full of different, like, not even writing prompts necessarily, but just things to fill in, like pages to fill in, that have to do with the world that you are creating. So whether or not this is a place in the real world or it's a completely made up fictional fantasy land, I feel like these are still super helpful. And you can get these at the bookstore, just wherever they sell the Wreck This journals. They sell them on Amazon too for like 16 or 17 bucks. I have like 2 or 3 of these. It just gives you a space to write whatever you want, to print out photos. The amount of like photos and sketches and stuff that I've printed out and pasted in, it's a lot. And so if you're someone like me who's a little bit more visual, or you're kind of both, like you want to have space to write and put in pictures and like inspo pictures and things like that, it's really great because it's kind of a multimodal book. So something like that is really excellent. It's going to get you going. So I feel like if you're stuck, or even if you're not stuck, but if you just need a place, you need a place where you can gather all of your stuff. And I guarantee you, if you've had a novel or an idea for a novel on your mind, there are probably some images, like inspo things, inspo pictures, quotes online that you've seen. Definitely print those out. If you are anything like me and you're kind of a tactile person, it is so nice to have a printout of all of those different things all in one place, instead of them just being on like a Pinterest board or something. It makes it feel more real and tangible, and I feel like that's motivating. Going along with that, make sure that you're backing up your stories. I cannot tell you how many times I've lost something. So make sure you're saving things in multiple spots. I know this isn't like necessarily related to like motivation and that kind of thing, but you're going to be very, very sad, as I have been before, if you don't save your things in multiple places. So make sure you're like saving something on your computer, saving it to like an external hard drive or a flash drive, something like that, and then maybe even uploading it to somewhere like an online storage, cloud-based type situation, like I use OneDrive, and then also printing them out physically, so you have a hard copy as well. And then speaking of hard copies, I just went to grab my manuscripts. Always, always, always print out your work. Even if you're like, this is my first draft, it's crap, I would never want somebody to accidentally stumble upon this. Seriously, you need to print it out. First of all, in case all of the digital files are corrupted or lost or accidentally deleted, you never know. But also for your own motivation, it is really nice to have things in physical form. My first novel, there's 2 different copies of that, like draft 1, draft 2. My second novel, and then I have my current work in progress is divided between these 2 because it's getting a little thick. Having these things printed out, yes, I know they're gonna get gross. Yes, they're like wrinkled and they've got like coffee stains and stuff on them, but for multiple reasons, print out your things, print out your stuff. Watching that manuscript slowly get thicker and thicker is really nice. Even if your goal is not to get published, it's still nice to see things in physical form because it just makes it feel a little more real. Next up is a scary one that I don't really do until the very end, like after I've written a couple drafts, like the second or third draft of a work. But it is good to actually eventually let other people see it. So I know that can be really scary, especially if this is like your first novel and you feel like you have no idea what you're doing and you have no idea if it's good or bad. But try to find somebody, a friend, a family member, a coworker, anybody who you know who sometimes reads, and who might be remotely interested in reading your work, and just see if they'll read it. See if they'll take some time. That way you're getting a second set of eyes on it. A beta reader is just kind of a fancy term for somebody who's reading your work just to give you some sort of direction, or to maybe spot some things, like some plot holes, like something that might be wrong. These aren't editors. They're not people who are giving you like actual corrections. They're just giving you like what they think of it. You're kind of using them as like a thermostat to kind of test and see if what you think you've written is true for the reader, if that makes any sense. Like, is the reader actually feeling what you want them to feel? I know the lighting in this video is going to be kind of crazy, but that time of day. Another thing that you can do if you are somebody who can't really find a lot of motivation when you're just home alone, like you find a lot of distractions when you're at home. Sometimes it can be difficult because you're in the mindset of being at home and being relaxed. So if that is you, something you could do is go to a coffee shop, or even better than that, a library. Coffee shops are great. We love the vibes of a coffee shop. They're playing some sort of jazzy music. There's people. It smells really nice in there. I will say it can be tricky sometimes because there's going to be a lot of people talking and socializing. There's going to be music playing. And so if you're actually trying to focus, sometimes it can be kind of distracting, if I'm being honest. So a better alternative would be a library. Not quite the same vibes, probably isn't gonna smell quite as good as a coffee shop, but it is gonna be easier for you to focus. Or at least I find that's true for me. You kind of have to be quiet in there, and there's not a lot of distractions. I feel like with a coffee shop, it's easy to people watch and kind of accidentally eavesdrop on what people are saying without even necessarily meaning to. Honestly, maybe that could be like a source of inspiration. If you're feeling a little stuck and you've got writer's block or whatever, you could kind of go and people watch and kind of do a little writing prompt based on what you think people might be talking about. Honestly, that could be kind of fun. But yeah, realistically, a library is going to keep you a lot more focused because there's just less going on. It's quieter. There's just not as many distractions. Another motivator, if you're feeling really stuck, and this is something I kind of want to get into on my channel. I've seen a couple of YouTubers do this where they do a writer's writing routine. They do that for like a day and just see if it helps them. So a motivator for you might be switching up the time and the place that you're doing your actual writing, which I think is really interesting. I would kind of like to do that. I feel like it would kind of get me out of my little writing slump that I'm in. It's just a fun way to figure out what might actually work for you. So that can kind of shake you out of your typical routine and kind of get you doing something new, because there's a good chance that they're living their life, their day-to-day, differently than you're living your life. So doing things kind of out of order as you would typically do them, or at a different time of day, it could be the exact shakeup that you need. I might try that sometime. If you're struggling specifically with like anything that has to do with plot, these index cards here, and I write down the plot of just the chapter on each card. So each index card is one chapter, and it's basically like a 2 to 3 sentence summary of whatever happens in that chapter. And so what I like about this is that not only does it kind of force me to know ahead of time where the story is going, because I'm that type of person, like I kind of need to know where I'm going before I can like get in the car and start driving. I'm definitely a plotter, not a pantser. What I like about this is that as you're writing them, you can like put them up on your wall, like literally post them on your wall. And as you're writing and finishing your chapters, you can like highlight them, cross them out, mark them off. And it's like a visual representation of how far you are, like how far you're getting. So again, it's kind of like how when we print things out in hard copy and you're watching your manuscript get thicker, it's kind of the same thing. You're like watching your cards get filled in. I think I took these down because all of these chapters have been written, but maybe I need to put them back up, honestly, because I've been kind of stuck for a little bit, so I'm gonna have to figure something out. Anything visual, I feel like can't hurt, because it's a way to take just this document that's on your computer that just has a word count and turn it into something tangible and tactile. Any way you can make it physical, any way that you can make it manifest in the world, whether it's, you know, printed paper, an index card, whatever it is, definitely recommend doing that because I find that it's helpful. Treat it like it's a job, but don't take it too seriously, which I know is maybe kind of a paradox, but I feel like a lot of times, as much as it is maybe just your hobby and it's just for funsies and you don't want to make it any more serious than what it is, if you're finding that you are struggling, treat it like it's a job. Treat it like you have a deadline. I know, like, if there's something at work that I have to get done that I really don't want to do, but there's a deadline and I have to do it, guess what? It gets done. It gets done because there's a deadline. So you might have to start taking it a little bit more seriously, especially if this is something that's like your dream and you really want to, like, it's not just like, oh, I'd like to finish that novel. It's like, oh, I would really like to have that published one day, or I'd like other people to see this novella or these poems. Because if you were to have a career as a professional writer, you are going to have deadlines. An editor is going to expect a certain number of pages. I know sometimes, especially I can do this too, we kind of set arbitrary numbers and goals, especially around this time of the year, like in January. And a lot of times they don't really mean anything. So I used to do this all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be published by the time I'm 25. A lot of times those goals are really arbitrary, but having some sort of goal is at least putting you in the right direction, because you can at least, you're working towards something, even if it is kind of arbitrary. Also, the opposite may be true for you. If you're taking it too seriously, and I think that might be the headspace that I'm in right now, where I really want to be an author one day. I think that would be awesome. I think I have it in me. I think I have great stories constantly going through my mind that I could absolutely see as published novels, as movies. Sometimes we take it too seriously and we start thinking about it as like a career, and it does kind of suck the fun out of it a little bit, and so then you're not really enjoying the process of actually writing, and it kind of creates this creative block where now all of a sudden you can't, like, you feel like you can't do it. So whichever one you feel like you are, maybe do the opposite. Also, something that I used to do, I haven't really done this in a while, but go onto like PowerPoint or Canva or some sort of like image creating app and make a mock cover. This is so much fun. Even if you don't even have a goal of getting something published, it can be fun to kind of take the vibe of the story and the ideas that are in your head and kind of put a visual to them. I've like scoured the internet, Pinterest, all sorts of different, websites, finding different images that you can kind of stitch together, different stock photos, find a font that you feel like really encapsulates sort of the vibe or the theme. I've done this before and it's a lot of fun because it does start to make it feel a little bit more real. And so that can be kind of a weird way to motivate yourself. Maybe you just need to take a short break from the actual words and do something that's a little bit more visual or tangible. And then the last thing that I was gonna say, you cannot wait for the muse to come by and inspire you. I think that's something that I am really learning the hard way right now. I cannot just sit around and wait until something comes up on the TV or my phone or an idea comes through my mind and then I'm like, oh, that's it, that could be the next scene. Sometimes you just have to word vomit and you just have to sit there and wade through all of the crap and you have to wade through the manure of stuff that you know isn't going to go anywhere, you're probably never going to use. Sometimes you have to get all of that junk out in order to get to the good stuff. It's good to write crap because from that crap, something good might come out of it. Something might sprout from the manure, you never know. If you're a perfectionist like me, I know it can be really tough to write something that you know is just bad, it just sounds bad. Let go of any kind of expectation, let go of your word count goal, let go of, trying to use big fancy words, let go of how it looks on the page, and just word vomit. That way at least you're getting it out of you. So full disclaimer, I am still practicing all of these. I have certainly not mastered the art of writing. I am really gonna try to go into 2024 with an open mind in terms of like discipline and trying new things, because I feel like, as some of you may have noticed if you're following sort of my writing diaries, writing vlogs, I haven't posted one in a while. It's been a couple of months because I have been in this rut, but I also think sometimes we say that we're in a rut or we have a creative block or writer's block, but really it's just a lack of discipline. And I know for me, I think that's true, if I'm being really honest with myself. So I just need to follow my own advice. That's part of the reason why I'm making this video, is to go back to it and watch it myself for motivation. Don't let perfectionism get you down. That's another really big one. I feel like a lot of us are in that boat where if it doesn't look good right away, we just scrap it and we move on, instead of, spending more time with it. Or we edit something to death where then it becomes like boring and we feel like it's no good anymore because it's like the 6th version. So even though what it is actually pretty great, it just feels like we've been kind of beating a dead horse. And so then it kind of loses its magic. Just keep going. It is okay to just do it for your own pleasure. even if it doesn't end up going anywhere or getting published. Enjoy the process. I think that's what I need to learn as well, is just that it is okay to just enjoy the process and not be thinking about the outcome. Because if we're not enjoying the process, why are we even doing it, you know? So I hope this was helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.